Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name is Kyle, and in this video tonight, we're doing our training camp news and updates. We're just going to kind of read the news. We're going to be using NBC Sports Edge. I like their little blurbs, and they're pretty good at just getting information out quickly. So we got a handful of things to look at today. I'll kind of talk about some of the things I saw on Twitter at training camp. I'll talk about some of the updates, actually, that I've been making to my projections, too. We'll hop into this document. But just off the top, let's just kind of read the headlines real quick. The first one here, Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Jackson, running back there. It sounds like he's second in command, it says here, behind Austin Eckler. The Sports Illustrated columnist Fernando Ramirez noted that Justin Jackson is taking higher reps at training camp, so he appears to be the clear number 2. Let me kind of read the rest of this. Indicated that Jackson appears to be the second in command behind Eckler. The news that Jackson is taking higher up reps comes as a bit of surprise after there were murmurs he was on the roster bubble earlier this offseason. LA has a crowded backfield with Joshua Kelly and 6th-round rookie Larry Roundtree in the mix as well, but whoever emerges could be fantasy relevant considering Eckler seeded goal line carries last year and has never averaged more than 11.6 carries per game. So very interesting to note here. We know Austin Eckler. If you're drafting Austin Eckler, we're drafting a receiver. We're not really drafting a true running back. He's going to get, again, somewhere between 12 to 13 carries per game, but we really want him to get those 6, 7, 8 catches per game to boost his PPR number. So that's what we're looking for when we draft Eckler, but it appears that the number 2 running back has an opportunity here, whether it's Justin Jackson, Josh Kelly, or Larry Roundtree. There could be some nice moments where they get to the red zone, they get to the 5-yard line. You see either Kelly or Jackson comes in, but it looks like Jackson has the leg up on the number 2 right now. Kadarius Toney progressing physically at the nice rate. Giants camp, we'll talk a little bit more there. There was an injury to Kenny Gallaudet. Not interested in Kadarius Toney for redraft leagues this year. We'll probably just monitor his preseason and see what we can get out of him. Preston Williams activated off the reserve COVID list. We'll see if he's recovered from his foot surgery last season and mixing in with the receivers well. Let me see what else. Rondell Moore, this one's interesting because he's starting to grow on me as a potential redraft late-round pick. Cliff Kingsbury views second-round pick Rondell Moore as more of an inside receiver and Andy Isabella as an outside receiver. So the way we're looking at things, you're going to have, of course, DeAndre Hopkins kind of outside, lined up all over the field. You're going to have A.J. Green, who's kind of got a little injury right now. They said it's a minor thing. They didn't really disclose it at all. And then Christian Kirk is dinged up right now, too. So Rondell Moore is really the only healthy receiver not named DeAndre Hopkins ahead of him. And Moore is going to be worked as the slot receiver. I think they're going to try to get him the ball quickly. I'm not really sure for projections how high I am on him yet, but maybe somewhere in the 40, 50 catches. His rookie season seems reasonable as long as he stays healthy. He could be a lot of fun, a lot of quick, creative offensive plays called for Rondell Moore. I can see that coming. So we're going to monitor him. He could be a guy that has just one of those 1 or 2 preseason plays and everyone's going to blow up his ADP. So he's an interesting guy to keep an eye on as the games begin. We got a game tonight, guys. We have our first Thursday night football game tonight, the Steelers and the Cowboys. It's a Hall of Fame game, so a lot of fun going on there. Jalen Richard for the Raiders. He will be sidelined indefinitely with a foot injury. Richard just returned to practice after being placed on the COVID list to camp. Doesn't really say anything about the foot injury. And we know Theo Riddick retired, so it's literally Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake for running backs right now. I actually want to, because a lot of people are nervous about Josh Jacobs losing some work in the receiving game and maybe a little bit of carries to Kenyon Drake. But now that Jalen Richard is out indefinitely, I didn't have him doing much. I had him for 20 carries and 11 receptions on 14 targets. But that makes me like Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake just a little bit more because I have to update these. Theo Riddick's gone now. They really don't have too many backs on the roster. I'm actually interested. Let's go to the Raiders depth chart here. Go to my favorite depth chart website is called Our Lads. And they got a couple undrafted guys, Trey Regas and BJ Emmons. So it's looking like the Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake show for the most part. And as long as Jalen Richard's out indefinitely, I'm probably not going to project him too much. So that makes me a little bit more interested in Jacobs in that 4th round range. And Kenyon Drake, in a full PPR league, Kenyon Drake, somewhere in that 8th, 9th, 10th round range, whatever he falls to, he's an interesting guy to put on your bench because we probably expect the Raiders not to win. They're probably going to lose more games than they win this year. So we'll see what happens there with the passing, versus the rushing percentages. But here's the Christian Kirk injury. It's undisclosed, it says. He's been absent the past few days, but returns just in time to soak up A.J. Green's reps, while A.J. Green is sidelined for some time. Still don't know what's up with Larry Fitzgerald. Rondell Moore, Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald, A.J. Green. There's a lot of question marks here. I think when we're drafting Arizona Cardinals players, DeAndre Hopkins really the only one, as far as, non-Kyler Murray, we're talking wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs. DeAndre Hopkins, all this receiver stuff is just making me want him even more in the second round. So I co-signed DeAndre Hopkins for you guys in the second round as a potential top 5 wide receiver. I'm probably not drafting Kirk. I'm probably not drafting A.J. Green. Rondell Moore, again, he is interesting. And then as far as, we're going to take Kyler Murray. I think that's a pretty easy call. And then the running backs, Chase Edmonds and James Conner, I think they both can be RB2 flexes for us. Here's the Kenny Gallaudet news. It's a hamstring. Same thing that hurt him last year. He's probably going to miss 2 to 3 weeks. Probably not going to see him in training camp or a preseason game. It's supposedly a cautious timeline for Gallaudet, who came up limping and was promptly removed from yesterday's practice. Fortunately, the Giants don't host the Broncos until September 12th, giving Gallaudet soft tissue injury ample time to heal ahead of Week 1. Although he and Daniel Jones need the reps together, New York will be wise to allow Gallaudet to recover throughout the preseason. His current ADP as the overall wide receiver 28 shouldn't alter drastically with this news. I tend to disagree. I'm already kind of low on Kenny Gallaudet. Let me see. I don't know where they're pulling the average ADP of 28 in there, but I have him as my wide receiver 37. I've been avoiding Kenny Gallaudet. Give me, these names ahead of him here. I'm much more interested in other names there. Drafting the Giants, I don't know if that's part of a winning recipe this year. The only way I want one is if it's Saquon Barkley. I could see myself now with Kenny Gallaudet. Basically, I don't like drafting players that have already been injured before the season. And with a hamstring injury for a speed receiver that, he's streaking down the field a ton, I don't like this. This is exactly what happened to him last season, and it kept him out for pretty much the whole back half of the year. So Kenny Gallaudet, I'm starting to not be interested. I'm definitely not interested in Gallaudet this year. If anything, it's maybe Sterling Shepard. He might be the most reliable PPR guy that you can get. Again, he's a 10 to 13 point PPR receiver. We'll see what happens there. Robert Griffin, Rg3, is going to be an ESPN broadcaster. I don't know what games he's going to call yet, but I thought that was pretty cool. I think he wants to still play football, but I think everyone knows that he just hasn't looked like he did his first season with Washington. So interesting tight end sleeper here. Sam Darnold and Dan Arnold have shown a strong connection at Panthers camp. So that's Darnold to Arnold. I really like Dan Arnold quite a bit. Here's the measurables. He's 6'6", 220. Last season for Arizona, he caught 31 passes, 438 yards, and 4 touchdowns on 45 targets. And just the absence of Curtis Samuel in the offense means there's more opportunities from either another receiver or a tight end to catch some more passes. We know DJ Moore, we know Robbie Anderson are going to get theirs. But who's that third or fourth guy that's going to step up? Some people think it's Terrace Marshall. I can see that. It sounds like he's having a good camp in the slot position. But Dan Arnold, Panthers did not throw the ball a lot to tight ends last year. And Ian Thomas, who at once was a promising potential dynasty player, he just didn't do anything last year in his first opportunity to do something. So they brought in Dan Arnold. I have Dan Arnold projected for about 33 catches, 405 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I'm willing to move that up a little bit, but at the expense of, McCaffrey or Anderson or DJ Moore or Terrace Marshall, I'm not sure. So he's going to be the third. He's going to be, at best, he's the 4th or 5th guy in the pecking order. Of course, the top 3, McCaffrey, Robbie A, and DJ Moore. So he's kind of fighting with Terrace Marshall for that 4th and 5th option here. And last year, they only had 2 tight ends get thrown a ball last year. They only threw it 39 times to tight ends in this offense. I know it was Teddy Bridgewater, but it's the same offensive scheme. So I'm optimistic Sam Darnold can get a little bit more passes to the tight end, but we'll watch this one. He's a fun guy to take as maybe your last pick in the draft. Let me get back to the news here. Backup Jaden Graham, injured reserve with a knee injury. It's unfortunate. He was their number 3 tight end, so this doesn't really affect Kyle Pitts or any kind of fantasy stuff. Tyreek Hill returned from his little knee absence of practice the last couple days. Kirk Cousins is back, activated from the list. There was some Deshaun Watson, Philadelphia wins a blow-in last night, real late last night. Who knows what's going on? Maybe they're trying to just hush it up. Personally, I don't know how a team can trade for someone facing 22 sexual assault accusations, but if Philly wants to do it and Washington or Houston wants to get something, at least something for him, it makes sense for Houston to send him now while we don't know what the verdict is. If they can just get anything for him, I think that would be good for them. But again, to acquire him, I'm not sure I want to do that. A couple Cleveland Brown wide receiver notes. Anthony Schwartz, the speedster kind of slot guy, missed the last few practices with a hamstring injury. But the other receiver here is Donovan Peoples-Jones. And the report is he is absolutely lighting up Brown's training camp. He's the wide receiver 3 here. It says he's a 5-star recruit out of high school. DPJ went to Michigan where the production didn't match the sheer athleticism and potential. He fell to the 6th round despite insane measurables in last year's combine. Peoples-Jones got in on 25% of the snaps as a rookie and produced big plays when given opportunities, snagging 14 of 20 targets for a whopping 304 yards. That's almost 22 yards per catch. That's really high. And a pair of touchdowns as the number 3. With Odell Beckham back healthy, Rashard Higgins resigned, and Jarvis Landry still in the slot, DPJ has a tough path to production. But it's good to know that he's making plays. He's going to compete for that 3rd receiver spot with Rashard Higgins. Something to file away. If there's an injury, this could be a guy that we plug in our waiver wire speed dial. So keep an eye on Donovan Peoples-Jones. Kyle Allen missing some days with an ankle injury in training camp. Now this is one, and I tweeted about this one. I have not been drafting a lot of Philadelphia Eagles, but here's the report is we expect Miles Sanders and Boston Scott to basically split touches this season, which is just crazy. Through 7 training camp practices, Sanders has narrowly out-touched Scott 35-29 with the first-team offense. With Jalen Hurts under center, expect the Eagles to implement a run-centric offense. So Sanders should get a good number of carries, but it truly sounds like Scott is going to be heavily involved as the preferred pass catcher and change of pace back. Sanders has dealt with injuries, can't be trusted for a full workload. Sanders is currently being drafted as a back-end RB2, while Scott isn't even being drafted in 12-team fantasy leagues. Also have rookie Kenneth Gainwell there. It looks like he's the clear number 3. He's a really good receiver, really good running back out of Memphis. And we've seen the running backs out of Memphis lately. Antonio Gibson, Darrell Henderson, Tony Pollard, a ton of good running backs coming out of Memphis that can be dual threats with the running and the receiving game. So this was one of the news blurbs that made me just kind of look at the Philadelphia projections just a little bit. So let me go ahead and scroll on what I have here. Sanders was dinged up a little bit last year. He did carry the ball 164 times, also 52 targets. At the moment right now, I have him getting a few more carries. I have him at 185 carries and 56 targets. Again, this is a whole new offense, a whole new system. You got new head coach Nick Sirianni and the Chargers offensive coordinator Shane Steichen. So it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure how to exactly use last year's data to predict this with the new coaching staff, but I have Sanders getting a little bit more than last year. But again, he missed some games last season. And then Boston Scott, it sounds like they really, really like him. And I have him going for roughly half the carries of Miles Sanders and getting maybe 20% less of the targets there. So he's got 40 targets and 95 carries. Last season, 80 carries and 36 targets for Boston Scott. So just a little bit more on his plate. And then Kenneth Gainwell, keep an eye on him. He's going to be a big preseason name to follow if you are a Philadelphia Eagle fan. Let's get back to the news. Gerald McCoy signs with the Raiders. Interesting. Backup tight end Donald Parham. It's his 2nd season. He's 6'8". He appeared in 13 games for the Chargers last season. And he was mainly used as a red zone specialist. He turned 20 targets into 10 catches, 159 yards, and 3 TDs. It sounds like he's standing out in camp. We know Hunter Henry's gone. They signed Jared Cook. And if anything happened, Jared Cook's 34. If anything happens to Cook, Donald Parham is going to be the next guy up. So by doing these training camp reports, we're kind of just looking at who might be a guy that we might have to maybe not draft, but just watch on the waiver wire. Because as soon as those injuries hit, we're going to be interested in a lot of players that we didn't really think about on draft day. So Donald Parham checks the box for me. Irv Smith has continued to shine in red zone drills at training camp. Irv Smith is their wide receiver 3. And Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, they really don't have another wide receiver beyond that. They signed D.D. Westbrook, but we'll see. I think Irv Smith is a guy that's probably going to have a career year in all categories. Receiving yards, touchdowns, targets, receptions, it's all going to be there for you. So if you're one of the fantasy players that likes to wait on tight end, I love getting Irv Smith. Usually if I wait on tight end, I'm getting 2 of them. A pairing of Noah Fant and Irv Smith sounds absolutely awesome to me. So continue to draft Irv Smith at ADP right now. He's a good value in an upside tight end. But I don't know. I think that might be it. I'm looking at this now, and these are the reports from yesterday. We talked a lot about these in the past couple of days. I think we put another video out too on Monday. But I think that's going to do it for this one. Let me actually just check the Twitter updates that I sent out today. Go ahead and see that. If you guys are new to the video, or new to the channel, please definitely subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. That's where I tweet out a lot of my training camp stuff. Just some Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance stuff. We've been following this one closely. Through 7 days of practice, Jimmy Garoppolo is 57 of 92, and he's thrown at 62% clip. Trey Lance, 55 of 76, and he's throwing it at 10% higher. And then you just factor in all the rushing ability that Trey Lance is going to have. I think, guys, it might be the last chance to buy Trey Lance low if you're drafting the next coming weeks, or we still don't know if Trey Lance is going to be the starter. He's going to be playing games this year, so try to get Trey Lance when you can. The other thing that I noted here too, really good follow here is Grant Cohn, who's a beat writer for the 49ers. He just noted who's the leading receivers 7 days through camp. Brandon Ayuk with 22 catches, Mohamed Sanu 17, Debo with 15, George Kittle down here with 7. He's under Ross Dwelly. I don't know if they're just taking it easy with him or whatever they're doing. But very interesting to note. I don't see Trey Sermon's name on this list, which is concerning. Like Raheem Mostert's got 5. But the name to take away is definitely Brandon Ayuk. I think he's a 5th-round pick right now. I have him as my wide receiver 21. So he's in a sweet spot for me where he's a wide receiver 2, but you can probably draft him as your wide receiver 3. Really good value there. 11-11s. It looked like Mac Jones got the majority of the reps today compared to Cam Newton. 10 of 14 passing for Mac, 2 of 6 for Cam Newton here. Leonard Fournette's been having a rough camp. He's been dropping the ball, fumbling. We'll see what happens with the Bucs backfield. There's the Arnold. We hit 30,000 views all time on the channel. We started this channel last June or May. So 30,000 views. Thank you guys to all of you that have watched and joined the chat rooms. I'm just really appreciate everybody for tuning in and let me talk football, man. This is what I like to do. Thank you guys so much for your time. That's going to do it for this one. I think tomorrow night we might do a live mock. We'll see. I want to get more mock drafts out because that's just, to me, that's the best way to get the thoughts out on as many players as I can. So thank you guys so much for your time. Have a good night. Enjoy the football. Steelers, Cowboys, Najee Harris, and I think Chase Claypool are playing. So enjoy this. We got football back, guys. So glad to have you. Have a good night. Peace.